Brings up an interesting point. The Fraternity of Afrocentricity. Giving niggas degrees in African studies who don't know shit about the white man. What do they teach in the African Studies Department? They teach niggas in slavery, niggas before slavery, niggas in the Middle Passage, niggas in the Civil Rights era, niggas in the Board of Education, niggas and some subjugated shit with some white people. Never do you hear in African studies niggas beat the white man. Never do you hear analysis on a power dynamic. How you gonna train a black man in African studies and they don't know shit about the white man? That's really dangerous. So there's a gap. Leonard Jeffries, who spoke with me at State University of New York, admitted that they're dishonest. Our scholars are dishonest because they hate Steve Coakley for getting into this. When it's here, it should be gotten into, but they're into denial. They don't want the people. Why is it African Studies departments are primarily at white colleges, at Temple, and at State University of New York, or San Francisco State, the first African Studies department, in the 60s. Nathan Hare, who helped found it, he can't even teach there. University of Minnesota. All these schools with African Studies department are white schools. The black schools won't have African Studies because they claim to already be black. So they don't deal in that. They don't give degrees in that. So now you got black professors at white universities having to teach black children the white way. And that's turned into the Fraternity of Afrocentricity. I challenge those Negro professors on reparations, the Conrad Worrells and the others who are off on Columbus Day, who are off on Thanksgiving, who are off on Christmas, they're off on Easter. They get paid for colonial holidays and they for reparations. Something's wrong there. But
and he started talking about me being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. Family, if you look at my bio, if you look in the room that you're in, you will see that I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. I have no issue with that. I'm not Greek, I'm an African. And you need to understand that. Do I belong to a Greek letter organization? Yes, I do. Do I belong to a Greek letter organization? Yes, I do. Do I belong to a Greek letter organization? Yes, I do. Do I belong to a Greek letter organization? Yes, I do. Do I belong to a Greek letter organization? Yes, I do.
Heed my warning. You must feel what I feel. Make your choice. Lives hang in the balance.
We are all members of Alpha Phi Alpha. And one of the reasons why we became members of Alpha Phi Alpha is because that organization has had a connection and interest to ancient Kemet since its inception. We are all members of Alpha Phi Alpha. And one of the reasons why we became members of Alpha Phi Alpha is because that organization has had a connection and interest to ancient Kemet since its inception.
I'm talking about the Negro Masons always talking about, is he a Mason? No, I'm from the craft of Amun-Ra, not white folks' masonry. I'm talking about the Negro Masons always talking about, is he a Mason? No, I'm from the craft of Amun-Ra, not white folks' masonry.
All right.
No, I'm from the craft of Amun-Ra, not white folks' masonry. No, I'm from the craft of Amun-Ra, not white folks' masonry. No, I'm from the craft of Amun-Ra, not white folks' masonry.
Heed my warning. You must feel what I feel. Make your choice.
black Greek-led organizations uphold European culture and white supremacy. Let's start off with the first one. The Alpha Phi Alpha. The Alpha Phi Alpha was founded at Cornell University, December 4th, 1906, by these 7 men right here. The Alphas call them the 7 Jews. Cornell University was a primarily white school. Now the Alphas always brag about being the oldest and the coldest. Now, as an African, I don't found nothing popular to me or good to me about wanting to be in the cold, wanting to be in the ice cap. You know, we're people of the sun.
That's right.
But at a predominantly white school, again, we talk about the Boule, we're talking about wealthy families. I mean, how many black people at this time, slavery just ended 15 minutes ago. And now you got Negroes going to predominantly white schools. And when they went there, many of them worked as butlers for other white people in order to make it. Okay, we go to the book African American Fraternities and Sororities, edited by Tamara Brown. In this book, she details this. She said that to make ends meet financially, some black students worked at white fraternity houses as servants, cooks, and housekeepers. At Cornell University in New York State, 2 of the founders of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity in 1906, Henry Arthur Callis and George Middle Kelly, worked at white fraternity houses. They were privy to some of the inner workings of the fraternity life and knew that black students at Cornell needed an organization to forge a collective identity and better their chances of preserving and graduating. So where did they get the idea of forming a fraternity from? The white people who let them work as a butler and a servant in their house. And the name of that fraternity was called Alpha Tau Omega. Now, we talk about Alpha Phi Alpha. You know, many people want to say, you know, there's nothing Greek about our organizations except for the letters. You know, the letters are the only things that's Greek. But we're gonna see about that. Let's break down what Alpha Phi Alpha means. Now, behind every fraternity sorority, you have an exoteric interpretation, you have an esoteric interpretation. What they tell to the public, and then when they hide amongst themselves. The first letter right here, A, means alpha, meaning the first. Okay? Like we talked about with Sigma Pi Phi, Phi means what? Fraternity. Okay? But fraternity means brotherhood. Now the A, the last A that you see here, means Aethiopus. So Aethiopus is what the Greeks called black people or describe black people in Kush. This is where we get the term Ethiopian. It's a derogatory name for African people that means burnt face. So the Alphas use the Greek term to define themselves because this term literally means the first and leading brotherhood of the Ethiopians. Now, on the surface it sounds good. It sounds like, hey, you got some black people that's trying to put together an organization and at least they had enough consciousness to put black on it. Now let's go back and look at the Alpha's first shield. This is the first fraternity shield of Alpha Phi Alpha. And this is documented. This is a facsimile of their charter letter. And you can see the same fraternity shield right here at the top. Now when we look at the shield, we break down the signs and symbols. One of the mottos of Alpha Phi Alpha is that they're the light of the world. So we look right here. You see this symbol right here. This is a torch. You see the hand holding a torch. This represents light and knowledge. It goes back to the story of Prometheus. Prometheus was the white Greek god who stole fire from the Greek gods and gave it to man. That fire, that light, represented knowledge. So the Alphas are telling you that they're bringing the light and the knowledge. Right here you also see what's known as the fascist symbol. Okay, anybody know about the fascist symbol? It's a symbol of power and authority. The Romans used this symbol as a symbol of power and authority. And also, we know today is fascism, they also use this symbol. Okay? So we're talking about elite people that are having authority over somebody else.
Time magazine, we see the symbols on the side, on both sides of the speaker's podium where the president is standing. The point I'm making is that, yes, this is Time magazine with bin Laden on the cover. We're talking about the big enemy. The big enemy. I I will assure you bin Laden is not the enemy. Let me show you what the enemy really is. But if you understand symbolism, Nazi, fascist symbolism, you will notice on each side of the presidential podium two interesting, perhaps 5-foot high symbols on each side of the podium where the president stands. This is what is referred to as a fasci, a bundle of sticks with a hatchet head. Now, what is the importance of a fasci? This is a symbol of Nazi fascism. The stuff that so many good Americans went to war in Second World War to defend the free countries of the world against Nazis and fascists. And why is the symbol of Nazism, fascism, on the presidential podium where the president stands to give his State of the Union address? We see Roman fasces, the symbol of international fascism. Somebody better start waking up and finding out bin Laden is not our enemy. This man is not your enemy. Here is the enemy. The symbols of world fascism, Nazism, the mace itself. One needs to understand that in the United States Senate there is a symbol called the mace. This mace is a Nazi fascist symbol. It comes out of the ancient Roman Empire. The fasci, symbols of the bundle of sticks with a hatchet head, comes out of the Roman fascist system in Europe. So if we have an enemy, you can bet your bottom dollar, here is the enemy. This whole thing about bin Laden being the dirty, rotten enemy, I think before we jump on the bandwagon and believe anything that comes out of Washington, D.C., I mean, we have had over and over and over again proven to us the lies, deception, hypocrisy, the conspiracies against this country hatched in Washington, D.C. Anyone who knows anything about government, and I've spent 42 years, day in and day out, looking, researching, and studying occultism, conspiracies in government. And anyone who knows anything about the subject knows that Washington, D.C. is probably one of the most corrupt places on the face of the earth. There is more lies, deception, manipulation, exploitation, not just of the people of color, but for the whole entire world. The media in America are nothing more than lackeys for international banking cartels out of England. It's just a disgusting, and when I think about how many Americans were killed in New York City, and believing as I do that this thing was a setup job, because it's a textbook, as far as I'm concerned, this is a textbook operation that Nazis used, and they've used it over and over again. America has been suckered in one more time.
See this dove right here representing peace, and then right here you also see the Hermaki, or what the Alphas call the Sphinx. Now, we look at our brother Ashanti's research. He tells us that, if you notice right here, you see Hermaki facing towards the west. We knew that Hermaki, our ancestors, facing towards the east, towards Ra. That's where the sun rose. Why is it facing towards the West? Because it's showing that they are accepting Western philosophy and Western culture. Now, this was the Alpha's original shield, but let's go back and look at their shield that they changed it to. How do you go from this shield that had a little bit of consciousness in it to this right here? This is their shield now. I mean, what about this represents Africa? Now, they say that these are sphinxes right here, or sphinxmen. But when you look right here at the top, I see a nice helmet right here.
English might have.
Last time I checked, we don't have no knights in Africa. I mean, we might have castles in Ethiopia, but we don't have no knights in Africa. So, I mean, where's your culture really taking you? Huh? We look at Alpha Alpha's other motto, which symbolizes or which says that Alpha Alpha is the uplift of all men of all races. Now, how many times are black people going to say all the problems black people got in the world, and we got time to worry about uplifting people of other races? So we go back, let's look at this. At a time in history where black people were segregated from white people, where black people were being hung and castrated. I mean, this sign right here says, I don't know if you can read it, but it says, nigga, let this be an example. How many examples do we need from white people? And even with all of this, in 1946, Alpha Phi Alpha was the first black Greek fraternity to let in a white member. The first to initiate a white member. And you see him right here dancing with a black sister. So when they initiated him, they had to go back and change their rituals. Let's go to their rituals. It says that the name Alpha Phi Alpha and the monogram A Phi A, as originally established, meant the first and leading brotherhood of the Ethiopians. But in addition now means the first and leading brotherhood of the Ethiopians to open its portals to the fellowship of all mankind. So it's clear for us to see why members of Alpha Phi Alpha like Frederick Douglass, like W.B. Du Bois, like Martin Luther King, I mean, you can even throw Thurgood Marshall in there. Why they promoted integration as opposed to liberation, a true liberation for black people. It's deeply rooted in their rituals. You can't lead black people towards liberation and call yourself a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. So our brother Steve Coakley was correct in saying that. You can't liberate and call yourself A Phi A. Now the Alphas try to use African symbols they put on the front, using Kemetic symbols, and they use these symbols making us think that they are liberated, and they're trying to lead our people back to some knowledge. But they also mix in this Greek stuff with this African culture, history, and tradition and knowledge. They call the Herb Market the Sphinx. Okay, this is their Sphinx magazine. They parade around in Egyptian regalia, making you believe that they are really for the liberation of African people. Well, as we discovered, their ultimate foundation is in integration.
By the way, if you're going to insult people who are members of Alpha Phi Alpha, you need to insult Anthony Browder, you need to insult Charles Finch, you need to insult Asar Imhotep, you need to insult Brother Sanjeti. We are all members of Alpha Phi Alpha. By the way, if you're going to insult people who are members of Alpha Phi Alpha, you need to insult Anthony Browder, you need to insult Charles Finch, you need to insult Asar Imhotep, you need to insult Brother Sanjeti. We are all members of Alpha Phi Alpha.
I mean, this man is a Greek, you know, undercover, you know, some type of, I mean, fag to me. I mean, Brother Joel, I sent you the link so the world can hear what he's talking about while he's trying to, you know, assassinate my character. Let the world hear what his character is. How he got spanked on his ass and how he enjoyed it and took pride in it. Could you play that, Brother Joel, so the world can hear what type of freak nigga this is? This is a freak nigga, a fun boy. Listen to it. Pay attention. This nigga's a fun boy, yo. It's a damn shame. And I'm not trying to be funny, but he said, yes, he did, and he enjoyed it. Listen to what he said. It's a grown-ass man let some men smack him on his ass. That's a damn shame. And I think the world needs to hear what these so-called new age Afrocentrics is into. That's some fun boy shit. And that's a damn shame, man. You know, we need to let the world hear what type of character this man is while he's trying to assassinate my character.
Ridiculous Asar Imhotep. First of all, let's get to know Asar Imhotep. Listen for yourself. You got any kind of hating process, huh? No, I played it, huh? Yeah. Okay, so you went through a hating process. No, I played it. There's a difference. Okay, so as you went through the hating process, did they slap you on the ass for the battle? Yes, they did. Oh, okay. So you bent over, grabbed your ankle, and that paddle was smacking that ass. Basically. Okay.
So
did they slap you on the ass for the battle? Yes, they did. Oh, okay. So you bent over, grabbed your ankle, and that paddle was smacking that ass. Basically. Okay. Did they slap you on the ass for the battle? Yes, they did. Oh, okay. So you bent over, grabbed your ankle, and that paddle was smacking that ass. Basically. Okay.
So some black people wanted to be like some white people. And the white people wanted to be the Brotherhood of Death. Now you figure that one out. Propaganda put out in the Philadelphia Tribune about the Boule, but also denoting the anniversary. Now I want to make some interesting notes about the change in the Boule logo, which I believe Kemper Burns had something to do. I used to talk about how this was the face of a white woman. If you notice, they went back and put Susan Taylor's face on there. That's Susan Taylor's hair. But now they put a black woman's face on the logo where for 98 years they had a white woman. Somebody say public pressure don't work. Shit, these niggas know what they was doing. Then here, the note inside of this urn, you see this is a Grecian sphinx. It's got a tail, a circular tail, sigma, wings like a bird, the body of a lion, the face of a woman. They serve one maiden only. Here, you can see that the right paw of the Grecian sphinx is over the urn. In the urn, look like some little circular thing going on, but actually inside the urn is the circle within circle. That circle within a circle is a code phrase for the Rhodes Rothschild Secret Society, started in 1891 by Cecil Rhodes, proclamated after his death with a will. The first black Rhodes scholar came from Sigma Pi Phi Boule, Elaine Locke, and they never made another black Rhodes scholar until Elaine Locke died, as to show the umbilical cord was connected between Rhodes and Rothschild and Sigma Pi Phi Boule. The urn has a paw over it. It's covering it or making it unknown. What's in the urn? A circle within circle. In the second history book, it says that inside the urn are the names of the people chosen to lead the state. Imagine being a college professor and you got your hand over the names and you got to teach African children about the World Bank, the IMF, the Federal Reserve, the Bank of International Settlements. When I go there, even in the master's programs, they don't even know who these people are because they're taught to serve them and not question them. Here is sigma, here is pi, and here is phi. Now this pi is very important because pi has something to do with this circle within a circle, or a round table group is what this pi has something to do with. Also, pi and the circumference of a circle is very important, and that brings up the numerology of 3.14. And we can talk for hours about that. Even see the movie in black and white called Pi, by a little white boy who drilled a hole in his head trying to solve the stock market by using a pi theory. But notice here, this is to obscure something secret. At one Boule convention, where we just walked in the lobby in Baltimore, right in the placemat was Boule convention upstairs. On that placemat were 9 squares, like tic-tac-toe with a box on it. Tic-tac-toe with a box on it. Now they've dressed it up to make it look like some Kemetic door. But actually, those are 9 squares. Sigma, 9 squares. Pi, 9 squares, phi. What's important about that is that those 9 squares are very important, what they call the 9 chambers of the Kabbalah. The Boule is a part of a Greek society of 4 female, 4 male, and the Boule make 9. A numerically significant number. This tic-tac-toe with a box around it, which I'm going to draw for the sake of this video, right here. This is like tic-tac-toe with a box around it. Those are the 9 squares of the Kabbalah. I'm not a good artist. I'm a good researcher though. Brother Noah, how many black people we run into at the Boule convention trying to learn something?
Not too many.
Not too many. Right. Okay. 9 squares. In each of those squares go a number. All the numbers add up to 15. The Kabbalah. Madonna reading the Kabbalah. She stopped her conference, her concert in LA a couple weeks ago because she needed to talk to her Kabbalah man because she was losing it. Her shit was so jive and so stale. People was booing her. She had to go see her Kabbalah man, and she changed her schedule. But those 9 squares are important. Circle within a circle, 9 squares. When you go to New Haven, Connecticut, where Skull and Bones is, you see it's the city of the 9 squares. City of the 9 squares in New Haven, Connecticut, 9 squares on the logo of Sigma Pi Phi Boule. Very, very important. The numerical importance. Skull and Bones, they're numerically in on the number 322, which also adds up to 7. Very important. Here, this number is 9. 4, 4, 4, 4 plus 1. 4 female, 4 male plus 1. The AKAs, the deltas, the zetas, and sigma gamma rho, the alphas, the kappas, the omega psi phi, and the phi beta sigma, and the boule, the 9, the number 9. Very important in the 9 squares, 9 within the system. This is a numerically brace society. Started 100 years ago in Philadelphia on May 15th, 515.
The Skull and Bones secret society was originally called the Brotherhood of Death. George Bush Jr., his father George H.W. Bush, and his grandfather Prescott Bush have all been initiated into this macabre fraternity, which was established in 1832 at Yale University by William Huntington Russell, whose family were America's biggest opium smugglers. George W. Bush was initiated into the Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death in 1968. The ceremony took place at the Society's headquarters, which is a stone building with almost no windows. This mausoleum-type building is known as the Tomb. There is a small enclosed courtyard, an internal chamber where initiates lay masturbating inside a coffin, and a museum of artifacts held sacred by the Society's members, which are all called bonesmen, regardless if they are male or female. Many of the artifacts inside the Skull and Bones headquarters have been stolen by its members. To prove their devotion to the Brotherhood of Death, bonesmen have robbed graves, bringing human skulls and skeletons back to their tomb and placing them in glass display cabinets. For nearly 40 years, George W. Bush has been an active member of this most bloodthirsty occult secret society. His allegiance is primarily to his fellow bonesmen, not the American people. In order to prove his devotion to the Skull and Bones, Prescott Bush, grandfather of George W. Bush, savagely desecrated the grave of Apache Indian chief Geronimo. Prescott Bush robbed Geronimo's grave and had Geronimo's skull placed in a display case alongside the Order's other treasured possessions, which include silver tableware from Hitler's Eagle's Nest headquarters in Nazi-occupied Austria. Welcome to the satanically inspired secret world of the Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death. Welcome to the sick world of the Bush family. The Skull and Bones headquarters is on the campus of Yale University. Yale is home to several other lesser secret societies, including the Scroll and Key. Alexandra Robbins is an American journalist who has written a book about the Skull and Bones called Secrets of the Tomb. In her book, she traces the origins of this cult, which was funded from profits of the Russell Company in the early 1800s. The Russell Trading Company was nothing more than an opium trading empire, which, still to this day, is the corporate arm of the Skull and Bones Secret Society. William Huntington Russell had traveled in Germany during his student years and was befriended by a disciple of Adam Weishaupt's Bavarian Illuminati. Upon returning to the USA in the early 1800s, Russell used some of his family's opium wealth to fund the building of the tomb at Yale University. Russell initiated several of his fellow classmates, including Alphonso Taft, who would go on to become the Secretary of War and Ambassador to Russia. Alphonso Taft's son became President of the United States, and so a time-honored tradition of hereditary membership of the Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death was begun. We see this tradition continued to this day, with senior bonesmen encouraging young initiates to marry into each other's families, their sons and daughters following in their parents' footsteps and becoming disciples of this most unholy of orders.
Saneter, for all the other stuff that goes down, brother, I must commend you for what you do, for what you have done in exposing so much of our youth, especially here in this city. Because, you know, I was a cop in New York City, and I'm telling you, For the 20 years I spent on there, I realized why we do what we do to each other is because of lack of knowledge of self. And it's not so, no sir. So the fact is that you are to be commended for banging hard and all of that kind of stuff. But the fact is, so many of our youth has benefited from looking at your channel. So for all the other stuff that has gone down, I'm going to dwell on the positive that you have contributed to this city. Because, you know, I was a cop in New York City, and I'm telling you, for the 20 years I spent on there, I realized why this city. Because, you know, I was a cop in New York City, and I'm telling you, for the 20 years I spent on there, I realized why this city. Because, you know, I was a cop in New York City, and I'm telling you, for the 20 years I spent on there, I realized why.
His name is Baba Heru. His name is Baba Heru. He was a 20 years police officer with the NYPD.
I know your federale niggas is in the house, you know? And the question is, had the feds infiltrated the black community? We already know the answer. We already know the answer. Because we can point to 2-3 motherfuckers that we have already identified as police.
From Police Beat to Prayer Beads. Character Study. By Corey Kilgannon, March 2, 2012. Priest Baba Heru has studied ancient Egyptian culture. Credit Julie Glassberg for the New York Times. For more than 20 years, he was Officer James Georges of the New York Police Department. Now he goes by the ancient Egyptian name Baba Heru. Mr. Saneter is the friendly pharaoh-like fixture of Chinatown's jewelry district around Canal and Mott Streets. He walks the area as if he just took a 10,000-year leap out of the Nile Valley. He greets passers-by who squint at the eye symbols and circle-topped crosses on his clothing and jewelry. Up in his 4th floor space in a commercial building on Christie Street, Mr. Saneter keeps a shrine for worship and study of the ancient spirits of Kemet, the ancient name for Egypt. The space doubles as the long-standing showroom and studio for his Kemetic-themed jewelry. Mr. Saneter has spent most of his life studying Kemetic culture and was ordained years ago as a Kemetic priest, the first in New York City, he says. Simply stated, Mr. Saneter believes that the ancient Egyptians were black and that the culture was a Nubian one native to sub-Saharan Africa, despite the cover stories put forth by more recent, envious cultures. It is a viewpoint dismissed by many experts. His outfits and jewelry are inspired by hieroglyphics and objects from the tombs of the pharaohs. Mr. Saneter wears a specific color for each day of the week, to match its corresponding ancient Egyptian deity. On Thursday, he had on a sharp suit of white Egyptian linen adorned with purple insignias of the Eye of Heru. He wore a shallow cap on his head, a purple scarf and a long string of 108 amethyst prayer beads. I'm wearing purple because it is Thursday, the day for Te, an Egyptian god, he said. Around his neck were heavy chains and pendants in the shape of a sacred falcon, and a medallion bearing the same scimitar symbol that adorned royal thrones. One of his big silver rings was in the shape of an ankh, the circle-topped cross commonly seen in images of Egyptian deities. It is a powerful symbol of life, he said. When they dig up New York one day and find an ankh, they'll know someone was on to the truth. This truth, he maintains, would let African Americans reconnect with their rightful ancient Egyptian heritage and their ancestors' highly evolved principles and noble lineage. Newsletter sign up. Continue reading the main story. New York Today. Each morning, get the latest on New York businesses, arts, sports, dining, style and more. You agree to receive occasional updates and special offers for the New York Times' products and services. See sample privacy policy opt-out or contact us anytime. Mr. Saneter takes groups of African Americans to the pyramids and temples in Egypt and points out where in the ancient images he sees Nubian features. They always make you take a local guide who gives his version, but I interject on the spot, to tell them the real deal, said Mr. Saneter, whose formal name is Saneter Saneter. He performs weddings, funeral services, and Kemetic cosmological holiday services. He has bestowed his blessings and jewelry on the likes of the jazz band leader Sun Ra, the controversial Judge Bruce Wright and celebrity clients like Wesley Snipes, Erykah Badu, and Ben Vereen, he said. Mr. Samehe had 5 children with his first wife. His second wife, Queen Afua, is a priestess, healer, and midwife who runs a Kemetic-themed wellness consultancy and writes books. Regarding his age, Mr. Samehe said, "I'm vintage. I go back thousands of years. Or at least to a childhood on a farm in Tortola, in the British Virgin Islands, and to British-run schools and to a Christian preacher father who told his son to investigate ancient Egypt." Mr. Samehe moved to New York in his late teens and in 1964 joined the police department, he said, to study the African Americans around me. He spent most of his career walking the beat among the people in the 75th Precinct in East New York, Brooklyn, it was Dodge City, and trying to spread the word. He said he wore an ankh pendant on his handcuffs holder and prayed before every tour of duty that I'd never have to use the tool of the West, my gun, to subdue my brothers and sisters, that if they want me to carry this tool of death, I have to carry my tool of life, the ankh. On Thursday, after making his rounds at the local jewelry shops, checking on orders of precious stones and jewelry parts and polishing jobs, Mr. Samehe returned to his shrine of Te, with its fragrant oil smell, Egyptian-style murals, and statues of brown-skinned deities. Whether high priest or police officer, he said, I've tried to challenge my people, to tell them they have a high culture and that if you realize you come from greatness, then you will be great again. Email, character@newyorktimes.com. A version of this article appears in print on March 4, 2012, on page MB4 of the New York edition with the headline, From Police Beat to Prayer Beads. Order reprints today's paper. Subscribe.
His name is Baba Heru. His name is Baba Heru.
No one can speak it since that we don't have vowels for it. And a good one would be what you call Medonecha. Some people going around saying that they speak in Medonecha. That's just what the some people going around saying that they speak in Medonecha. That's just what the
Amasu enpa ntara South su eminra npa ntara awu tuawura maketi pa herura.
You can't speak it because there's no vowel. The European added some vowel to try to communicate with each other. And there are more than one such language, and there are many languages in which we have not, no one seems to have decoded yet along the Nile and elsewhere.
Amasu enpa ntara South su eminra npa ntara awu tuawura maketi pa herura. Amasu enpa ntara South su eminra npa ntara awu tuawura maketi pa herura.
He was a 20 years police officer with the NYPD. He arrested black men and his handcuffs had unks decorated on them.
I have a humble and curious question for Dr. Ray Hagins. I have heard you openly and proudly state on numerous occasions that you are a member of the Fraternal Order of Police. Is that correct?
I think that's irrelevant to this discussion.
No, it's just part of my question.
What organizations I've gone to have nothing to do with this today.
Can I ask a question?
I mean, I thought your question would have something to do with what we're talking about.
All right, my question is from one African in the movement to another African in the movement. And I'm still going to ask my question. My question is this, Brother Ray. Humbly, I just would like to know, I'm a young brother and I'm curious. I have an article here that says that the Fraternal Order of Police is boycotting any industry, any entertainer, any actors, anyone who supports our freedom fighter, Nubia Jamal, anyone. I have another article which 2 senators in New Jersey with the backing of the Fraternal Order of Police, are pushing State Resolution 150 and asking Obama to bring our warrior queen, Sister Assata Shakur, back to America, extradite her here when we liberated her. So my question to you is this: as a brother, I would like to know if the Fraternal Order of Police, an organization that you are openly and proudly a member of, is backing a resolution to bring our freedom fighter, Assata Shakur, back to America when she was liberated, and they're boycotting Mumia Abu-Jamal, one of our other freedom fighters. My question is, how can I believe that you are proudly a member of an organization like that and a Pan-African nationalist like myself? That's my question. How can you be with them and with us at the same time?
There's an adage that I grew up on, young brother, and it says these words: you know a tree by the fruit that it bears. Okay? A lot of people ask me questions about organizations that I am a member of. I am a member of well over 50-something different organizations. And in every last one of these organizations, there are people in those organizations that are anti-African. There are people in those organizations that are very conscious Africans. Unfortunately, the Fraternal Order of Police has the reputation that it has. I can't speak to that. Are you asking me, do I have a background in law enforcement? Of course I do. I'm a former member of the Newark Police Department. There's no secret about that. Every member of the Newark Police Department is automatically a member of the Fraternal Order of Police. There's no secret about that. Do I participate in the activities of the Fraternal Order of Police? I don't have time for that. I am about healing my people. And if you have heard me and listened to me, then the question that you asked should be completely insignificant. But evidently it's not, so you have a right to ask it. I don't know if I answered your question. I'm a member of many organizations that you might think are bad organizations. That don't mean that I'm bad. Okay? I mean, for example, I know churches where the pastor is a pedophile. Does that mean the people who go to that church are pedophiles too? Not so. And we need to stop judging individuals because of a reputation that an organization that they may have affiliated with as a part of it, brother. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
And I found a book, none dare call it Conspiracy. It's a white, right-wing kind of guy book. And it says sometimes some things about us are communists or something. But I looked through that and I saw relationships with General Electric and ExxonMobil. And I looked at all, and these relationships I started to research. It wasn't until I found them in Chicago that Chicago accepted what I was trying to say. We used to have one radio show came on WJPC, Johnson Publishing, who is Boule, Ebony Jet, etc. And Vernon Jarrett was the host of the show, who I didn't know was head of the Boule at that time, Chicago Tribune columnist, started AXO for the NAACP. And one day I called in and I was trying to explain some of this stuff, and he cut me off. He said, we're not going to have any of that. I didn't know he was Boule. When I ended up becoming special assistant to the mayor, the other special assistant was Erwin France, who was head of Model Cities under Mayor Daley. He was an alpha like the mayor, they buddies, all of this and that, but I was a threat to him, but I didn't know at that time he was head of the Boule. It wasn't until later. And then that's when I went to my friends, my African-centered friends in Chicago, and said, hey, man, I'm researching these white folks, and I think I found the black folks connected to the white folks. And then I started finding black folks' names, African-centered black folks' names. Jay Carruthers, you know, and Jay Carruthers is my hero in Chicago. He's in a group with Bobby and Conrad and Bob Starks, a lot of people, Anderson Thompson, people I love. He said, man, we got to talk. Let's talk about that. And I started looking up other names. I saw Asa Hilliard's name, and And so I felt that as I began to get deeper into this relationship, I began to notice that my African-centered friends were less happy about me getting to the bottom of this, and they wanted to focus me on, I remember taking me in a room, I used to work for Bobby Wright. I remember them taking me in the research room. They had put this map of the United States and had all these little pin boards on Montana, Utah, Wyoming. Said, now we want you to focus on these guys. I said, well, what bank do they run?
In a relationship, every man wants to know this. If a woman is in the business and she has a husband or a boyfriend, what is he thinking?
First thing that comes into mind is, first of all, are you going to be the same way when you come home? Are you going to be excited and energized when you get home? And of course you are. Just because you're doing this, like you said, it's a job. When you get home, actually, I'm more into my man when I get home than I would be on a set. Because you don't get to experience all the emotions that you normally would, the touching, the sensuality that you would when you're at home.
No, you're stimulating me. Hold on a second. Look at Dr. Hagins.
Dr. Hagins, listen. Pastor Hagins, how did you get so close?
He started
you follow what I'm saying?
When we started, he was over here somewhere, and now he's over here. You know, we talk about this stuff all the time.
Right,
Now, being a pastor, and George said, why didn't you put pastor in his name? Because I never call you pastor on the show.
I noticed that.
And I didn't say pastor. I kind of took it out of the little intro. Because I'm curious, as a pastor, what is your position, first of all, in general?
Yeah, what position?
I'm gonna pray for you.
You need to pray for him.
The missionary, of course. The missionary, of course. I mean, it's only, but of course.
What is it? How can you be a pastor and admit that you don't have issues with the adult industry, or do you?
I don't have any issues with it, Mike. But then again, I'm an outside-of-the-box thinker, okay? I look at any particular topic by understanding the root of it all. When we talk about pornography, all right, we're talking about, etymologically speaking, we're talking porneo, which simply means sex or sexual, and graphic simply means literary or pictures. So the purpose of pornography, okay, in its true intent is simply the use of illustrated sex for the purpose of stimulating.
It's obviously work. George,
Now, follow what I'm saying. Follow what I'm saying.
I'm trying.
Follow what I'm saying. As a therapist and as a pastor, believe it or not, I do prescribe.
So you watch porno?
No, I don't watch it.
You just prescribe?
I don't watch it because I personally don't need to. But I do prescribe.
Look at these mans out there.
Prescribe it for other people.
I have prescribed pornographic.
Do you write a prescription for porno?
You need
go get booty talk 10.
Right. Big black bun, par 5.
You crazy, man. But no, really, I have couples that come, you know, who are having a serious case of sexual dysfunction.
Sure.
And many times they need some type of stimuli.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? So this is what we call conjugal pornography. And that is
go ahead,
cool.
I like to sound what the good doctor is saying. What porno does, it facilitates the need for fantasy. In most cases, people that do enjoy watching adult video, they may not enjoy certain acts with their you know.
The ultimate question. And this, George, leave me alone. Like, I'm getting this one out, man. I'm getting this out. How do you detach emotionally from sex?
Or do you?
Well, there's a difference.
Thank you, George.
It's ironic you asked that because I asked the same question to them.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a difference between sex and love. That's why you have that term, booty calls and one night stand, because they understand there's a difference between love and sex, and that is what it is. It is sex. And when you go home, you're experiencing
See, she did it again.
Don't elaborate on that, doctor. Go ahead.
See what she did?
What do you want to say?
Again. She said, when you go home, and she pointed right to me.
Dr. Ray Hagins is in the fantasy mode.
What church you pastor?
We need to get down into that one.
I can just see that sermon now. Yes, sir. And I need to lay hands upon.
You wild, man. So he ran back toward the officer, and that's what gave the officer the justifiable right to shoot. Officers, we are trained to pull that trigger until the threat is eliminated. Did y'all just hear what I said? Yeah. We're trained to pull the trigger until the threat is eliminated. Let's take the angel's wings off of this guy. We're acting like he was an upstanding citizen of the community. And as a pastor, believe it or not, I do prescribe.
So you watch porno?
No, I don't watch it.
You just prescribe?
I don't, like he was a pastor or a civil rights leader. We're talking a brother who was come on, y'all, he was a member of.
You just like them kids sitting right there.
No, I'm not gonna say.
If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. Nigga. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason. If I was a damn Mason, I'd come out and say I'm a Mason.
But you also, you mark your body up with these things that they call brands. Getting branded. Branding yourself is the ultimate sign of being a slave. You go back to the plantation, this is where slave masters were branding property. And it's not even just from the transatlantic slave trade, even if you go back to Roman times. You see, Europeans, they use history as a military tactic. And in doing so, they study their history and they learn how to apply what their ancestors applied back to you. When Hitler wanted to train the Nazis, he consulted with the KKK in America. Yes, sir. So they learned these strategies for a reason. But if we go back to the Romans labeled runaway slaves as fugitives. And as the greatest modern historian of ancient slavery, Moses Finley has remarked, fugitive slaves are almost an exception in their sources. It goes on to say that to deal with the problem, the Romans hired professional slave catchers to hunt down runaways and posted advertisements in public places giving precise descriptions of fugitives and offering rewards for their capture. Around the necks of slaves who were recovered, they were also attached iron collars, giving instructions on what to do with the slaves who wore them if they happened to escape again. So in the National Museum of Rome, I saw this slave collar right here, giving details of what to do with that slave. And people want to say that chattel slavery just started with the European and transatlantic slave trade. The Greeks had a slave trade. They would go to other countries and get slaves and bring them back to Greece. And this is the same thing that you see today. They would put the same slave collar on our ancestors. Here right here it also says, if caught, fugitives could be punished by being whipped, burnt with an iron, or killed. Those who lived were branded on the forehead with letters FUG for fugitives. So we look at our ancestor Wilson Chin. Here you see the slave collar around his neck. And if you look on his forehead, here you see he's branded on his forehead with his slave master's initials. Different day, same story. So what will make you as a man want to brand yourself on the ass? And that means you had to let another man do it. I mean, this also came from the plantation. On the plantation, when the master wanted to mark his property, he would get other black men, because he was too scared to do it for himself, he would get other black men to brand them like cattle, to stick their brand on you. And we still do this now.
Don't move, nigga. Don't move. Don't move.
Let's go, Aaron. What's your chest?
You a man now, boy. You count me, boy.
Your slave days is over.
Papa Rock is in here. We're gonna be makeup, baby. He thrown in already. Look at him. I gotta feel it.
This is the latest thing, getting branded. What's that brand mean?
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity.
So is this just a fraternity thing?
Yes, sir.
And this guy right here says he wants to get branded. What, are you crazy?
Yeah, I guess.
What kind of brand do you want to get?
I don't know yet.
You know, they used to just brand cattle. You know, they used to just brand cattle. You're going to get branded?
Right on my arm. Right there. I'm a football player, though. Strong.
That's going to hurt.
Not really.
It might get infected.
Not really. If you take care of it, it won't.
What if you get hepatitis C or something?
Make sure it's
Man, I don't know.
I'm from the old school. Nobody's going to brand me.
Welcome to Kemetic Legacy Today, your weekly journal of ancient African, ancient Kemetic history and spirituality. My name is Jabari Osaze, also known as Heru Jedin Ma'at Aten.
And my name is Anika Daniels Osaze, also known as infiltrate.
This episode we have an interesting, exciting artist, accompanied by Brother Joster.
All the lies you've been told, baby, let me set you straight. Every day back in this way, you just don't know. Let me show you the past so your future can look bright. Help you walk into the light, help you see yourself. I've heard them say that we wasn't even there. Baby, let me make it clear, we were the ones. If you pay attention to what I'm about to show, there's no doubt that you know we were the ones. And I'ma show you who Nefertari was. Said she was black because that's the way that Ryan Mayhan show you. Egypt was a black man, King Tut was a black man. Cause that's the way that right down and now. Whence we came from the southern land so hot. No, they think that we forgot. Remember the time from the Horn and the West. These black people made their way. See them coming for Friday. And here we are, as above, so below. This is how they built them stone. We have never been alone. This is the truth. If you can't see yourself, then it's true you've been misled. Got them lies all in your head. Let me help you out and I'ma show you. That's the way that Ryan made me show you. Cause that's the way that Ryan made him and show you. Our history, it ain't no mystery. Just listen listen and you'll understand and show you what they cannot hide, what they can't deny. That Egypt was a black man lately. And all the things that we've forgotten, voices from the distant past make themselves heard. Resurrection, something now the truth's been revealed. Tell me what you gonna do. Gonna keep it to yourself or gonna tell the world? If you do, then prepare for the challenges you face. My heart goes out to you, precious black boy. Said she was black because that's the way that God made him show you. Egypt was a black man, King Tut was a black man. Cause that's the way that God made him and show you our history. It ain't no mystery. Just listen and you'll understand and show you what they cannot hide, what they can't deny. That Egypt was a black land and show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm Mary. Egypt was a black land. King Tut was a black man.
That was a fabulous presentation, Brother Shaka.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dua. Thank you both.
I'm so exciting. It's so exciting to have you on the show.
Just